So you clicked on this video expecting me to hand you a set of numbers, right? Have this much in an ISA by 30, have this much in a pension by 35, this much sitting in savings by 40, and then apparently the rest takes care of itself. Well, I'm not going to do that, because in all my years spent doing this, sitting across from people at every stage building their money, I have come to realize that it makes almost literally no difference how much you've got parked in which account by which birthday. What actually matters is a kind of handful of structural things, milestones, if you want to call them that. And once they are in place, your money genuinely does start to fall in place around them, more or less on its own. So that's what I want to give you today. And I want to start with the one that almost genuinely people mostly skip, which is knowing your number, your actual number. Not, I'd like to be comfortable one day, not enough, a real figure. This is the very first milestone you need to get sorted by 40. Because look, if you got in the car right now and kind of told me to give you directions, the very first thing I'd ask is, well, where are you going? And until you can answer that, there is no route forward. You're just driving around, and money works in exactly the same way. So let's make it real. For example, let's say that you wanted to retire on £40,000 a year at 60, whatever. So to fund that sustainably, without draining your pot dry, you're looking at somewhere around £1 million in a pot. Now it's tangible. Now I can work backwards and tell you almost to the pound what you need to be putting away every single month to land at that place. And that's the bit that makes this whole thing essentially start by falling all into place. Because at that point, you're not guessing anymore. You're just following a very basic instruction. Now, I've actually built a free growth calculator, growth forecasting tool that does exactly this for you. So you put your target in, it shows you the monthly contribution that you need. Very, very simple to use. It's linked in the description below if you want to go out and find your own number after you've watched this. The second milestone is a big one. It's making sure that your money is growing in the most tax efficient way that it possibly can. And look, I know how dry that sounds, but just stay with me for a few minutes, because this is the one that quietly, I think, is probably one of the biggest levers that you've actually got. So picture two people, right? Same salary, same amount invested every single month, same returns, all that sort of stuff. And the only difference between them is that one is handing a slice of that growth back to the tax man year after year, and the other one isn't. Now, give that a couple of decades and the gap between those two people is enormous. It's such a big friction to your growth. So in the UK, obviously that mostly means using something like your stocks and shares ISA to house your investments. Now, remember, that's just an account where any growth or gains that you make inside it are completely tax-free. Or something like a pension, for instance. Same money, same investments, just sat inside the most appropriate wrapper for what you want to achieve. It's about the closest thing to free money that genuinely you will ever come across. Now, the third one is when things shift a little bit as you get older, specifically around that 40 years old mark. And it genuinely catches a lot of people out. So bear with me. Now, before 40, honestly, it's kind of fine to go out there and make a few big swings, right? Bet heavy on that one thing. Back a bet that you're making. But big speculative bets are kind of fine before 40 because you've got time to recover if something goes wrong. But by 40, the biggest risk to your wealth isn't that you necessarily didn't accumulate enough. It's that you lose a big chunk of what you've already built. So the danger kind of changes once you get past that age 40 barrier. So the people that I work with one-on-one, by the time that we're kind of around that stage, what I really want to see is absolutely more than anything, to be honest with you, is diversification, right? Sounds simple, but spreading things out across your money and every part of your life so that no single event can knock the whole thing over. So on the investing side, that usually means consolidating your money and moving your money into something like a global index fund, right? Which is basically just one pot that holds essentially a tiny slice of pretty much all the big companies around the world at once. So rather than speculating on a few individual stocks or sectors or themes that you're hoping might come good, you don't want to do that. You want to be in a global index fund. And essentially, if you don't do that and you bet on individual stocks or sectors or themes, it can very, very easily completely wipe you out. But the sneakiest version of this, and it's something that I think people don't think about often enough, and I see so many times, the sneakiest version of this is one individual company shares. Now, loads of people in good jobs, particularly at like startup companies or tech companies and all that sort of stuff, ended up handing and loaded with shares in the company that they work for, right? They feel like, I know the company, so I'll buy the shares or keep the shares. And look, it feels great, right? Until you realize that your salary and a huge lump of your wealth are now both riding on the exact same company, which means that if that company ever like hit the rocks, you can lose your income and your investments in the same week, right? It's very, very real. It's a bit like standing on a tree branch, right? While you're sort of soaring through it at the same time. So my recommendation to you is spread your money as diversified as you possibly can. I've heard really credible arguments on this sort of stuff about how, like, if you work in the tech sector, you shouldn't invest any of your money in tech stocks in the stock market. So obviously try not to go like too extreme, but ultimately, if you're as diversified as you possibly can, like if you work in tech, you might want to invest in like consumer staples. Now, I'm not sort of saying that you should do that. I think you should just invest in one simple global index fund, but you get the point around diversification. The fourth milestone is building what I think is kind of like a fortress around the whole thing. And by 40, this is so important. And it's the one thing that people find least exciting, but truly, every time I work with people about this, need it the most. Because underneath all of this is one uncomfortable fact, right? You cannot build any wealth without any contributions. And every one of those contributions comes from your income. So you can have the cleverest investment strategy, the best plan that anybody has ever drawn up. But if your income stops, all of it is literally suddenly irrelevant because there's no kind of fuel left to run the engine. Nobody falls off track because they pick the slightly different version of an investment fund. They fall off because life happened to their income and there was kind of nothing there to catch it. So again, there is 3 layers of defense. An emergency fund, the classic, 3 to 6 months worth of your actual outgoings, sit in cash if something goes wrong. Then, ideally, to be completely belt and braces, an income protection policy, which is just a very simple policy that pays you a chunk of your income, up to around 60% of your income, each month if you're unable to work through illness or injury. Even more important if you've got dependents relying on that income as well. Forget the wealth building side, you might have to keep the lights on. So if you have this in place, the fuel keeps flowing even if you can't work. And then if you genuinely trust yourself with it, and that is an absolutely key point, a 0% interest credit card sitting in a drawer somewhere as one more line of defense that you hopefully never touch might not be the worst thing in the world. If you layer those up, there's almost literally nothing life can throw at you that stops the plan. So that is the next milestone. And the last one is getting a proper handle on debt. But you have to do something first. You have to split debt into 2. Because again, not all debt is exactly the same animal. Firstly, there is good debt, which is borrowing that's funding something productive, right? So mortgage on a property, a loan into a business, those sorts of things. And then there's bad debt, which is your credit cards, your store cards, your car finance, the stuff that is funding the things that theoretically have no value or are even losing value. Now, with good debt, to be honest with you, I'm not in a big rush to kill that off by 40, okay? It's not something that is necessarily a bad thing. It's called good debt for a reason. So on your mortgage though, this is an interesting one. I found this makes a huge difference at 40. On your mortgage, there is one number that genuinely is worthwhile chasing, and that is getting your loan to value under 75%. And remember, loan to value is just what you owe by way of a mortgage measured against what your property is worth. Because once you drop under that 75% line, lenders and mortgage brokers start opening up meaningfully cheaper interest rates to you. You're just overall less risky, so you're able to open things up. So the reality of that is if you're under that mark, you're actually way more likely to be mortgage free by the time that you retire if you target that sort of figure around 40. And again, bad debt is the absolute opposite all of this. You just want to get rid of it as fast as you can. And again, this is somewhere where I'll happily tell someone to sort of hit the absolute sort of pause button on investing in their future entirely, which sounds crazy coming from me, until you look at the numbers around investing versus essentially paying off that bad debt. So if your credit card is charging you 20% and your investments might make 7-8% a year in a good year, then every pound you're investing while that debt is still sitting there is a pound that's quietly going backwards. You're running up an escalator that's going up, down. Clearly, you need to clear the 20% first. Obviously, that is a guaranteed 20% return with none of the risk. And there really isn't any investment on this planet that can promise you that sort of risk-free return. Okay? Super, super, super important. Now, like I said, there is no key. You must have XYZ in a certain account by a certain age or a certain point. But there is a line in the sand that you do genuinely need to care about. When your savings or investments reach about 100,000, there are a few absolutely critical things that you need to make sure that you're doing and also make sure that you're not doing. Now, I cover all of those in this video here. So if you're getting to that point that 100 grand in savings or investments is in sight, you really, really do need to watch this next video here. So give it a click and I'll see you